Depending on where you are in your life right now, when you think of weddings, you may remember your own, or you might be thinking of your child's wedding. They're magical and stressful events for sure. Would you love to live that day over again? Well, guess what? This week is one of the most exciting events Paul and I have had for years, probably since the birth of our kids. Our daughter Cassie is getting married to a wonderful young man named Sam. Now, while you're listening to this, the wedding might have already happened, or it could be happening right now. So today I thought, what better topic to dive into than weddings? I mean, they bring out so many emotions and stories, and let's be honest, opinions. I could literally talk about them for hours, but to keep things fun and stop you from hearing me ramble too much, I'm going to break it down into sections. We're going to avoid getting too bogged down in what's right and what's wrong of wedding planning and just enjoy the ride. First, I want to start by telling you a little bit about my own wedding, because we all imagine that big day is going to be picture perfect, don't we? Sometimes it is, but for many of us, once the wedding planning kicks off, we don't realise just how many expectations and surprise opinions start rolling in from other people. This can really catch you off guard. As humans, we often focus on what we think the wedding should be, and so do the people around us. Because believe me, people will tell you what they think about what you should be doing for your wedding. So get comfy, and I'll share my wedding story and some of the unexpected curveballs that popped up for me. And while I'm talking, have a think about your own wedding. Did everything go smoothly? Were there lots of opinions and ideas? Or did you not know? Because you never asked anyone how your wedding affected them anyway, and to tell the truth, you don't really care. I want to take a look at traditions and religion as well, because these can have a huge impact on weddings. In fact, my son Jack recently attended 2 different wedding ceremonies for the same couple, one Japanese and the other Catholic. Now, that's a huge effort for everyone concerned, but he said it was fantastic. However, as a society, many of these celebrations have been outgrown. We'll also talk about personalities. Yes, the MBTI is making an appearance, and how they can play a huge role in the whole planning process. Hi, I'm Kate Mason, and welcome to Parenting and Personalities. This is the podcast that connects you to the ones you care about the most. So let me share some of the things I didn't expect when I was planning my wedding. I, like most people, when they start that wedding planning journey, thought it was going to be easy and that my wedding day was going to be the most perfect day ever, right? Well, maybe yours was or will be. But let me tell you, once you've announced you're getting married, the pressure, the involvement and the expectations start rolling on in. And it's not just your expectations. Oh, no. It's everyone else's too. Suddenly, everyone's got their own ideas of what your wedding should look like, and you start realising how very annoying people can be. You find yourself managing tricky situations that you actually never saw coming. I got married 39 years ago to Paul, and at the time I thought, this is going to be a piece of cake. Now let me just say, I'm an ESFP. I'm extroverted, I love socialising, I'm all about details, and I really like going with the flow. So I'm pretty laid back about the whole thing. And boy, was I lucky, because my mum is an ISFJ. She's introverted, so she's quiet, and she's into the details, which is really important for planning an event. She's a feeling type, so she thought about everybody while she was doing it. And boy, she's a J. She is so organised. I barely had to lift a finger. Mum's also thoughtful, and she was always quietly asking me what Paul and I wanted. And then she just went ahead and did it, and organised everything perfectly. I don't even remember having to do much beyond figuring out where people were going to sit. I really owe Mum a huge thank you for that, because at the time I didn't realise what an enormous job it was. Now here's where it gets interesting. No matter how much you plan, things pop up that you never expect. My mum was making sure that I would have no problems with my wedding because she had had the mother-in-law from hell. So my parents had actually been separated for many years by the time of my wedding, and my dad had remarried someone much younger. I asked my dad to walk me down the aisle, and he said he would be delighted to. And then I received a phone call the next day, and he apologised and said he couldn't do it because his new wife was worried about being left out and no one sitting with her. Problem number one. Luckily, we figured it out. My mum actually offered to sit with her during the ceremony, but in the end, someone else was there that was able to sit with her, and everything was fine. But really, that's not something you think you'll be dealing with when you're planning a wedding, right? Your dad not wanting to walk you down the aisle. And then my dad gave a small amount of money towards the wedding, which was great. Mum basically paid for the rest. But he had one condition. He didn't want it spent on alcohol. His church didn't believe in drinking, so he requested it went to the food instead. Of course, I nodded along and said, "Yep, sure, Dad, that's going to the food." Despite the fact, as most of us are aware, in a wedding package, it just all goes in together. But I ignored that, and we just moved along. And then there was Paul's mum, who was remarried, and she was upset about the seating arrangements. We had sat her with her new husband and his kids, but she decided she wanted to sit with her ex-husband, their daughter, and his new partner, because she wanted to be with her family. Oh my gosh, that's so stressful. There were tears and anger, and in the end, it didn't happen the way that she wanted, but it definitely added some drama for the future day, and it made me realise that people were going to be much more in their heads than I think, and they vented it quite clearly. These things might seem minor at first, but they end up being way more worrying than I've ever imagined, and as you can see, I still remember them nearly 40 years later. Phew! So, did you have any problems when you were planning your wedding, even on the wedding day? If you're getting married, here's lesson number 1. Things probably won't be perfect, but that's okay, because in the end, those little imperfections will make your day beautifully unique. And you might have some great stories to tell in later years when the bad memories fade. You're going to get feedback and sometimes pushback from people, maybe the ones you least expect it from. And just be open to advice, because you're going to get a lot of it. But also remember to respectfully let people know that you are capable of making your own decisions. After all, it's your wedding. And speaking of unexpected things, here's a fun one. The day before our wedding, Paul and I actually had a big argument. He wasn't talking to me. I was so stressed that I told the person who started the whole argument, "Listen, if he's not talking to me by the time I walk down the aisle, the wedding is off." What a mad scramble for him. Lucky he made it in time and got Paul to say sorry. How's that for wedding day nerves? Look, here we are, 40 years later, still arguing, but happily married. So you know what? Things turn out. Another thing that really impacts wedding is religions and traditions. So let's take a look at the why behind weddings. Why do people get married? And what are the traditions that we've built behind this momentous event? Across history, cultures and religions, marriage has carried deep significance. It's more than about two people. It often symbolises community, family and faith. So let's just take a look at a few of these. In Christian weddings, marriage is viewed as a promise, a sacred bond between two people in the eyes of God. One of the most common elements you'll see in Christian weddings is the exchange of rings. The circular shape of the ring is said to represent eternity, while the material, usually gold, symbolises purity and value. The tradition of saying vows, which dates back centuries, is a solemn promise between the couple, often inspired by biblical references like "to love and to cherish till death do us part." Another interesting tradition is the white dress for the bride, which became popular thanks to Queen Victoria in the 19th century. Before that, brides often just wore their best dress, regardless of colour. The white dress symbolises virginity, purity, and new beginnings. Across the globe, there are countless unique wedding customs. In Scottish weddings, for example, there's the tradition of hand fasting. And no, your hands aren't going under diet. And this is where the couple's hands are bound together with ribbons or cords to symbolize their union. This is where the phrase tying the knot originates. In African cultures like the Maasai, weddings include vibrant displays of dance and colour. And one of their traditions involves the groom's family blessing the bride by spitting on her head and chest, which may seem unusual, but apparently it's a sign of respect and good luck. In China, weddings often feature the colour red, symbolising happiness and good fortune, and tea ceremonies are common where the couples serve tea to their elders as a sign of respect. It's amazing to think about how diverse and rich wedding traditions are, but at their core, they all share common themes: the celebration of love, unity, and community. However, many of these traditions and religious customs tied to weddings are no longer held by younger generations anymore. And you know what? That's their prerogative. Things change. But for us older folks, it can be hard to let go of certain customs that were created for very different reasons than they're used for today. Now, let's talk about personality types and wedding planning. If you're familiar with the MBTI, you know it can have a huge impact on how people handle major events, like weddings, for example. So let's take a look at Cassie and Sam and how they planned their wedding. Cassie is an ESTP, so she's outgoing. She likes details and she uses her logic for decision-making and loves making decisions on the fly. So when it comes to planning, she thrives on spontaneity. She's also happy to follow Sam's lead, though, because she knows he's going to keep everything on track. Now, Sam is an ISTJ. He's an extroverted introvert. He likes people, and he likes details, and he uses his thinking logic. He's the quintessential planner. His ability in organising anything, vendors, managing contracts, and keeping timelines in check is impressive. He's the kind of guy that can whip up a detailed schedule for the wedding day, make sure everything from the ceremony to the reception flows smoothly in almost minutes. And when it comes to finances, here's the differences that really show. Sam's all about paying invoices on time, and maybe earlier if the budget allows. Whereas Cassie, on the other hand, tends to push those bills to the last minute. She's the type that thinks, why rush? It'll be fine. They'll get paid in the end. Because they know each other so well, this doesn't always cause discord, but I'm sure there are some pretty interesting discussions around it. Both are logical thinkers, and this helps them to explain their ideas and ensure they're on the same page with each other. Most of the time, anyway. If disagreements arise, they're quick to address them. They would prefer to tackle issues head-on and resolve things efficiently and effectively and move forward. Sam takes charge when it comes to budgeting. He's the grounding force, while Cassie keeps the atmosphere lively and fun, but is not always organised. So there, you have it, a glimpse of how Cassie and Sam's different personalities have influenced their wedding planning journey. It's all about finding that balance between spontaneity and structure and keeping the process enjoyable along the way. Their different strengths can complement each other beautifully, resulting in a wedding that reflects both partners' personalities and preferences. And finally, if you are parents listening, we love our kids so much, but sometimes we need to step back and let them do their own thing. I'm an extrovert, and I love giving advice. I can't help it. But I am also self-aware enough to know that advice is just that. It's advice. It doesn't have to be taken by anyone. Remember too, if you're giving money for the wedding, be clear about whether there are any strings attached or expectations that come with it. And if there are, have these discussions right up front. After all, in the end, it's their wedding and it's not ours. Honestly, I'm so proud of Cass and Sam. They've organised everything: location, catering, flowers, guest lists, music. The list goes on. People keep asking me if I'm stressed. No, I'm not. How lucky am I? All I have to do is find myself a dress for the wedding. And being the laid-back person that I am, I finally found one 5 weeks out. I was a little stressed for a moment, thinking I might have to recycle an old one, but no, the dress appeared, it's all sorted, and I'm thrilled. Cassie and Sam, if you're listening, I want to say thank you for doing such an amazing job. You've planned a magnificent day, and I couldn't be prouder of you. Wishing you a lifetime of love and happiness together. Thank you for listening to Parenting and Personalities. If you enjoyed this episode, we'd love it if you could leave a rating and a review that would help others learn about this podcast. If you're interested in discovering more about you and your family's personality types, you'll find my book, Who Is This Monster or Treasure in My House, on Booktopia or Amazon. If you have an episode idea, please send a note to thepersonalitycoach@gmail.com. Many thanks to our producers at Stories and Strategies, and we'll see you next time.